Welcome to the Global Warwatch Network. You know, for over 70 years, NATO has been the absolute cornerstone of security across the Atlantic. It was a given. But now, well, with defense costs soaring and national debt piling up, the U.S. is facing a truly historic crossroads. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more explainers just like this one.
And let's be clear, this isn't just some fringe political debate anymore. It's a mainstream conversation. With some serious economic pressure building up at home, policymakers, and frankly, a lot of regular people, are taking a really hard look at these long-standing commitments and asking, is the price tag still worth it?
So America is really at a fork in the road here, with two very different paths. On one hand, you have the America First idea, the call to pull back and focus on all the pressing issues at home. And on the other, you have the traditional NATO First role, where the U.S. remains the main protector of Europe. And believe me, there's no easy answer.
All right, so to really get why this is all coming to a head right now, we've got to follow the money. Because at its core, this whole debate is being fueled by some staggering financial numbers that Washington just can't ignore anymore.
Wow. Just look at that number. $35 trillion. That's the U.S. national debt, and it's climbed past that mind-boggling figure. When you're dealing with a number that big, it puts immense pressure on everything, forcing you to reevaluate every major expense, especially something as big as defense and foreign aid.
And that leads us directly to the central argument you hear from critics of how NATO is currently set up. It's this idea that the United States is basically shouldering an unfair amount of the financial weight for the entire alliance's security.
And I mean, this chart really paints the picture, doesn't it? In 2024, U.S. defense spending is knocking on the door of $1 trillion. Now look at all the European NATO allies combined. They're spending less than half of that. We're talking about the U.S. spending more than double what the rest of the European alliance spends on its own defense.
This huge imbalance is what leads to a sentiment you hear over and over again in these talks. American taxpayers are effectively subsidizing Europe's security. That quote really gets to the heart of the frustration. This feeling that America is picking up the tab for security, which then lets European countries spend their own money on other things.
So where does that other money go? Well, while a lot of European allies haven't been hitting that 2% GDP spending target that NATO itself set, they've been pouring funds into big domestic priorities. Things like comprehensive welfare programs, infrastructure projects, and all sorts of internal development, all while resting comfortably under that U.S. security umbrella.
So this all builds the case for America to reduce its role. And for the people who support this view, it isn't just about cutting costs. They see it as a huge strategic and economic opportunity for the United States.
First, there's the big strategic pivot. A lot of policymakers will tell you that the #1 global challenge today isn't in Europe. It's the rise of China in the Indo-Pacific. The idea is that scaling back in NATO would free up absolutely critical military assets. We're talking aircraft carriers, advanced fighter jets, to be moved to Asia. And second, think about the payoff right here at home. If you redirect those billions of dollars from overseas operations, you could spark a whole new wave of investment. That could mean funding for cutting-edge AI and semiconductor research, finally modernizing our infrastructure, boosting healthcare for veterans, and creating good-paying jobs. And here's the wild part. It's a bit of a paradox. A smaller U.S. military footprint in Europe could actually set off a massive business boom. Why? Because if Europe has to take charge of its own defense, they're going to need to buy a ton of military gear. And that could mean massive contracts and jobs for the U.S. defense industry. But okay, let's flip the coin here. What would this new world look like from Europe's perspective? Because if the U.S. actually did pull back in a big way, the continent would be facing an immediate and very profound security crisis. This number really says it all. 70%. That's roughly how much of NATO's total military capability comes from Washington. And that's not just about troop numbers. We're talking about the high-end tech, the logistics, the intelligence, the very backbone that makes the alliance a credible force. So if the U.S. steps back, Europe would instantly lose access to these absolutely critical tools. We're talking about things like long-range bombers, the giant cargo planes that move armies, the spy satellites, and of course, the ultimate insurance policy, the American nuclear deterrent. To even begin to fill that void, Europe would have to go on the biggest military shopping spree in history. They'd need to buy whole new fleets of fighter jets, build complex missile defense shields, and stock up on massive amounts of tanks, ammo, and surveillance drones. The list is just staggering.
And let's be realistic. No single European nation, not even all of them put together, can just fill this gap overnight. Building up that kind of military strength would be a generational project. It would take decades of nonstop investment and hundreds upon hundreds of billions of dollars.
So what we're really watching here isn't just a simple policy debate. It's a true turning point for the entire alliance. It's a collision between America's priorities at home, its very real economic limits, and the simple fact that global power is shifting all around us. And it all boils down to this one provocative question at the heart of it all. Should America continue carrying the weight of Europe's defense, or is it finally time for Europe to stand on its own? There's no easy answer, but the path that gets chosen is going to define security for all of us for decades to come.
And that's where we'll leave it for now. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.
If you found this valuable, do us a huge favor and hit that like button, share it with a friend, and please subscribe. It really does help us keep creating this content for you.
But what do you think about all this? It's a massive issue with huge consequences, and we genuinely want to know your thoughts. Let us know in the comments section below.
And for more great content, make sure to join our community on social media. All the links are right there in the description. We'll see you next time.